Hi everyone, and welcome to Everything EFL, third time lucky due to technical problems. Okay, so welcome to the podcast on a very chilly November evening in North County Dublin. I'm still flying solo, but don't fear, I have a great guest for you this evening. We're going to talk about something that is beginning to be more widely discussed in the EFL field. So do you know what native speakerism is? Put simply, according to the internet, it's the notion of a certain westernized look and culture that is represented by the EFL teacher. But anyone who's ever worked in a language school knows that this isn't necessarily the case for all the teachers. And those teachers who don't typically fit this model may face a negative reaction in the classroom. So joining me today is a woman who, when we were working pre-pandemic, was one of the most well-respected teachers in the staff room, and rightly so. She has a wealth of experience in the EFL field in both teaching and management. So I'm delighted to welcome Radhika Iyer. Welcome, Radhika. How are you?
Hello, hi Erin. Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure, and for piling me with all those compliments. Feels good, yeah.
Pleasure's all mine. Okay, do you just want to tell us a little bit about your teaching career up to now?
Yeah, of course. So my experience would span more than 20 years. I won't say exactly, it's nearing 30. So that would give away my age actually. But I actually trained as a teacher. I got a B.Ed in TESOL from the UK. And then I worked, because I'm originally from Malaysia. And then I returned to Malaysia and I worked in a secondary school for 10 years. And then I moved to Dubai. During that 10 years, I did my master's in education as well. And then I moved to Dubai and I moved into higher education. And so at first I was teaching English for first year students who needed to up their skills for whatever courses they were doing. And then I moved into teacher training. And one of the teacher training courses that I was training on was similar to a PGCE. It was a 9-month course for TESOL teachers who are going to teach English as a second language in Dubai private schools. And 5 years ago, I moved to Ireland. And I was teaching in a language school, ESL, EFL, EAP, and some teacher training. And most recently, I just got a job with a local education authority. So that's me. Okay.
Woman of many talents. Okay.
Thank you.
So firstly, would you agree with my definition of native speakerism?
Yes, I would agree, actually. I think native speakerism has come to mean that it has to be somebody born and raised from a Western country, a certain look even. So that means white. And then also a particular accent. So a particular accent from Western countries, may it be US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK, Ireland, and any other country, although in many other countries, English may be an official language or maybe a close second language and people would speak it all the time. People from those countries then are still not considered as native speakers just because that they might have another mother tongue, that they are speaking. So yes, I would agree with that. Yeah, good definition. Thanks.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for exclusion in that definition, unfortunately. So you've worked primarily in Dubai and Dublin. Have you ever had an immediate negative reaction in a student's first class?
Yes. So especially in Ireland, well, it happened in Dubai once because I was delivering academic skills workshops to postgraduate students. And one student just kind of said, like, because it was called the British University in Dubai, just assumed that all the teachers and lecturers would be British and assumed that I wasn't British. Well, that was right, of course, but still just based on my appearance. And then immediately said, like, where are you from? What are your qualifications? How long have you been speaking English? Why are you teaching us this course? So but thank God my manager kind of stepped in because I told him about it, and he came to the workshop and just basically said, this is an optional workshop, and there's no one like Radhika in this university. So if you don't want to be here, here's the door, So that was great, actually. It made me feel very supported, Of course, in Ireland, I've had a few instances where I've had students, like I'm already in class setting up or something quite early, and then students start walking in on the first day, and I just say hello. And before I can even introduce myself, the first question they ask me is, where are you from? Immediately assuming that, oh, I'm not, she's not from Ireland, she's not Irish. And there was once a student who in the first class asked me, was I born in Ireland? And I just said no, and I carried on with the lesson. And then he left the class during break, went straight to reception and asked to switch classes, saying that he wanted an Irish teacher. But of course, they said he has to stay in my class, because I suppose they felt then they would be encouraging that sort of discrimination. But what he chose to do then was he stayed in my class for the next 2 months and just completely refused to engage, participate, do anything. And that just made it worse for both of us, because every time I saw him, and he would just sit in the corner and not speak a word and not do anything, not submit any work, not write, not speak, nothing. And I just thought, you are not learning at all, and you're just putting me in a bad place. And then the other students also felt very uncomfortable and uneasy. So yeah, it was really bad. And there was also once when I was doing a grammar lesson or something, one student out of the blue just said, did you learn English at university? And I just said, what are we doing here? Why are you asking me this question now? So like out of the blue, like I know that they've been wanting to ask me something, but they just shoot it out at some point, which I thought was very rude and disrespectful. So yeah, so I actually answered her by saying, no, I just learned English last year. I said, I've only been speaking it for about 12 months. Yeah.
Aren't you amazing? It's such a quick learner. So
yeah.
Can I ask how the management reacted in the second case in Dublin?
Yeah, well, I can understand, because they kind of, that student especially who insisted that he wanted to switch classes, they said he can't. But I kind of understand why, because I suppose they thought if you switch classes, then they're kind of encouraging that sort of discrimination. So you just walk in, you don't like the look of your teacher, you can say, I want to switch classes. So I understand why they didn't do it. But at the same time, I felt like they should have supported and monitored the situation. Like somebody should have come and asked me, like, how's it going? How's he doing? Because then eventually, after about a couple of weeks, I had to send an email, and then I had to have a meeting. And then I was told that, no, it wasn't actually about me, that the student was having other issues, But I had already been informed that he had wanted to leave my class because he considered me a non-native speaker. So knowing that, I felt, well, he may have other issues, but he wanted to leave my class based on that. And now he's just not engaging, and he's just behaving badly, And so, yeah, so it was, that was a difficult time for me. And I wished almost then that the management had done things differently, switched him or done something differently. I'm not sure what, but yeah, it was awful. It left a very bad taste in my mouth, actually.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah, so there was like a lack of follow-up basically from the manager or the management. Here's a question, did you ever give them feedback about that?
Him?
About the way you,
there were a couple of times that...
Sorry, to the management, about the way you thought it had been handled.
No, not about no, I never gave that feedback, because they kept telling me that, I think they were trying to, I don't know what they were trying to do, but maybe they're trying to make me feel better and say, no, it's not about you. Yeah. But I'd already felt that it's about me, So no, I never told management that, that I was dissatisfied about the way that it was handled. Yeah.
Do you wish you had?
But I think I put something on Facebook without mentioning, of course, to the student or his nationality or names or anything. I kind of put a long rant. And then I think a couple of people in management saw it, and then kind of said to me that, oh, sorry you felt like that, but this school actually doesn't encourage that. And I thought, well, actually you did, but never mind, but, what can I do, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, I mean, how hard is it not to get angry in these situations? And do you tend to sort of use humor or something else to try and deflect that anger?
Yeah, like that one with that girl, I was a bit sarcastic. You know, I said, like, I would try and use humor. Sometimes if they ask me where I'm from, I'll say Dundalk. And then they've not heard of Dundalk, you know. So then they look it up, and then I'll show a map of Ireland and say, oh, that's Dundalk. And then they say, no, 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 like, where are your parents from? So then I just show them another small town. I say, my parents are from RD, you know. And then I said, my grandparents are from Castle Bellingham, and I show them all the small towns that they've never heard of. And and usually if it's a higher level class, they get it. They get the message that, okay, you know, like, let's just drop this kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I usually don't get angry. There's just no point, you know, like I might come back to the staff room and have a rant with y'all and shout and scream about it or whatever, you know, because then I can actually get some satisfaction because I know I'll get some sympathy or empathy. But with the students, no, you know, I would use humor. I would joke about it. Sometimes I would just plain ignore the question and just say, like, if somebody just suddenly asks me, where are you from? If we're doing something about travel or something, I say, really? We're talking about my origins? You know, what I have done with the higher level classes, with an IELTS class, when they were so curious, was that then I made in one of the sessions, because we were looking at, I said that we were doing a speaking activity. So I switched it and I said, okay, now you can ask me questions about me, you know, but you know, and I can only answer yes or no. So it has to be yes, no questions, you know. So at that point, I gave them a platform where, you know, they could ask me questions, but because I restricted it to yes, no questions, you know, they were kind of guessing. Are you from Sri Lanka? No, you know, so then, you know, so then, you know, that's it. You know, like they would never guess Malaysia
No.
somehow or other, you know. So so that's it. They don't find out then, you know, where I'm from. So I've done that, and that's worked well. And then they have a laugh, and then it kind of then puts a stop to it.
Yeah.
It's rested kind of thing, you know,
Yeah.
and it doesn't come
Moving
up
on.
again. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
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 Moving
Good
on.
idea.
Yeah.
I like it. Have you ever felt like you've had to prove yourself more than other native speaker teachers who would perhaps fit the typical idea of what an EFL teacher would look and sound like?
Yeah, well, in terms of looks, I suppose I can't change anything, you know, unless I pour bleach on myself, you know. But yeah, in terms of in terms of the way I speak, you know, I would be conscious of my accent and my pronunciation. So sometimes what I would do is I would show off a bit, because I loved phonetics and phonology when I was at university. I was one of those who could I could transcribe a whole paragraph using, you know, phonetics. I was like that. I loved it. You know, I loved
I love
sounds and
to.
things like that. So yeah, so so then I could show off then, you know, because I know all my phonetic symbols. I know all the nuances and the sounds. So I would kind of challenge them a little bit, you know. So that was my platform for showing off, you know. So then I would challenge them and make it a little bit difficult for them, you know, just to kind of, I don't know whether I succeeded. I don't know what my point was, but I wanted to show them, listen, you know, I know what I'm doing, you know, I'm good at this kind of
Yeah.
thing, but I don't know if it worked or not, you know, but sometimes it gave me some sort of satisfaction, I suppose, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
pronunciation too. And obviously being English and working in Ireland, you try and give the Irish or the Dublin pronunciation and sometimes the American pronunciation as well, because a lot of
Yeah.
students are more used to that anyway. Do you ever try and do like a bit of a Dublin accent and give them some
I don't think
alternatives?
I've succeeded in doing a Dublin accent. What I've done is I've tried to imitate a Dundalk accent, because I told them once that a bus driver was talking to me. He was asked me something and I didn't know. Then I went and sat down in my seat, and then I figured out what he was asking me. So when I got off, I answered his question. So he must have just thought I'm really stupid. Like it took me like 1 hour to figure out the answer. But then, so they have a laugh with that. And then we also look at, yeah. And I also asked them, because a lot of our students were staying with host families, right? So I
Yeah.
asked them like, okay, how would your Irish host families pronounce this word? And then
Yeah.
we say, how is it different from what's in the book? And we look at the vowel changes and differences. And we also look at, like New Zealand, you know, and Australia and all, how the vowels are really different. And then sometimes when you do speaking, you know, like there might be a Scottish accent, and they say, what accent is that? And I say Scottish, and they say, my God, didn't even sound like English. And I say, exactly, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's just such a range of accents. And you know, so sometimes, yeah, it's fun to just do that and look at different accents, and then just see how in the book the received pronunciation or the standard pronunciation is actually even mostly not, that's not how even people speak in England or UK, because of the different regional accents, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it
it's quite
caters for
interesting.
yeah, it's very sort of generic south of England pronunciation, isn't
Yeah,
it? Which is brilliant for
yeah.
me, but for pretty much everybody else in our staff room, it was like completely pointless. So how long, like if you get a student who you think maybe they've got a bit of an issue with me, how long does it generally take you to win them over?
I don't focus on winning them over, you know, because I just think I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability, you know. And what has happened is that I know the first class in this language school was an EAP class, and I replaced another teacher. So when I walked in, they were kind of, and most of them were from, most of the class were from Brazil. They were mostly first or second year university students who had come to you know, to DCU. So they were there to do this EAP course to continue to do a year in DCU, and there were also some Chinese students in that class. So I know that on that first day that one or two went up to reception and said like, who is she and where is she from and all that. And I know that whoever was at reception that time was very good and said, okay, stay for a week in Radhika's class and then see how you go. And then after a week, come back and let us know if, you know, you're not happy. Because at that time I was new as well, you know, so they didn't know anything about me as well. But then the person at reception told me nobody came back. So I assume then it takes about a week, you know. But generally, I don't think, I need to win students over. I think that I have to do my job as a teacher, and I have to care for my learners, and I have to get to know them and find out their learning styles and what's good for them and what's working in the class, you know. Whether I hope they like me, you know, I hope so, you know, that's all you can hope for, but you can't force everyone to like you. But if someone's decided that they're not going to like you because of the way you look and sound, then maybe I don't want them to like me, you know.
Good point. It's a very good point. You can only try so hard, you know, and then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know you've reached your limit of tolerance, and that's that, and you can suck it up. um so have you, like, you're quite active on Twitter, aren't you? You're more of a Twitter gal. I'm more of an Insta gal. You're more of a Twitter gal. Have you sort of seen
Yeah,
tourism stuff being discussed more widely on Twitter lately?
yeah. I joined Twitter a few years ago, but I wasn't active until lockdown because I kind of had nothing much to do. So I kind of became active. And then I found that there are a few people out there, and there are a few groups or organizations out there who are really pushing this and fighting against this idea of native speakerism, and about how you shouldn't use accents to judge people and their teaching abilities, you know. So yeah, there are a few good fighters out there actually. So I kind of read what they have to say. You know, I follow them and I like things. You know, lately I haven't posted that much. You know, but I do see that there are also a couple of groups on Facebook. And one of them recently posted a video of a teacher, I think, who was trying to, I think because of COVID, trying to set up her own online teaching business. And one of her ways of advertising it was saying that, oh, you know, are you learning English now? But where are you learning English? Are you being taught by teachers who are not native speakers? Then you should come to my YouTube channel, you know. So I thought, oh my God. And then all of us, once I saw that video, we all went and reported it to YouTube. So then that video was removed. So that was brilliant, you know. Yeah.
Oh. It's a good example of I don't know what you'd call it, crowd power, just people coming
No,
together.
yeah.
making a
Yeah,
stand.
people coming together, making a stand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
so
stuff.
that was good. I mean, that was one good thing that came out of social media, I suppose,
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. It can be used for so many insidious things, if as we have seen, but I mean, it can also be used to mobilize people for good. Um, so
Yeah.
I'm not that active on Twitter, but I saw a little while ago that Hugh Deller, I think he's under Lexical Lab. I'll put his handle on the show notes. He
Mm.
tweeted something about native speakerism, and he just got this huge backlash from people completely disagreeing with him, about the fact that, you know, native speakers should be from a certain country, or everybody should be a native speaker who teaches English or something like that. So he just, like, every day he retweeted somebody's tweet, you know, just to say, okay, this person said this today, this person said this today, and it was brilliant. So I think, like, exposing this kind of thing is really important. I mean, it's something that, to be honest, I hadn't really thought about before. And like, I know that there was a big debate about non-native speakers not getting fair treatment when it comes to getting jobs, but I never really considered native speakers who don't fit the mold not getting jobs, or not getting the chance to get a job. So I mean, do you feel like you've sent your CV somewhere and you've just never been given a chance from the
Oh,
get-go?
definitely, definitely, yeah. In Dubai and also in Ireland, I've sent my CV, for teaching jobs, director of studies jobs, and they haven't even got back to me. They haven't even interviewed me, because the advertisement basically says that, we prefer native speaker applicants, or some of them even say non-native speakers need not apply. Now, they don't know if I'm a native speaker or non-native speaker, but based looking at my CV and looking at my name and looking at perhaps, they assume then, oh, okay, they just assume she's a non-native speaker, so we are not even going to bother interviewing her. And yes, so I would say, yes, I have been discriminated against, because if they interviewed me and said no, then I say, okay, at least they gave me a chance, but yeah, they didn't even give me that chance. So then I would say, because if they looked at my CV and looked at my experience, then they should have interviewed me, at least given me an interview. But that means they just rejected me based on my name and my origins, and so that's very disheartening.
Yeah, I'd say so. And again, it's something that I hadn't really considered. I mean, my sort of approach to this was through the point of view of your experience with students. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it starts with management, doesn't it, really? Giving
it
people a chance.
starts it starts with management. It starts with businesses and people who are in the business of language teaching or language schools, because they are the ones who are actually spreading this idea. So if you are advertising it like that, we only we only want native speakers, and then when they're advertising their school to prospective learners, one of the phrases that you will always see is, oh, our teachers are natives, native speakers of English or whatever, so that's used as advertising to draw students. So then how can you blame students for
Yeah,
coming in and thinking that, oh, because and the idea is they have this picture, then what does a native speaking teacher look like, and so that's what it is. So they are actually making it worse. So schools and people in the language teaching business should actually stop doing that, and I think that right now, if I see any advertisements like that, I would actually say name and shame them, put it on social media and say this is not right. I mean, you don't need to say anything really bad and say, look, this is not right, and I think that's what people are doing now. A lot of non-native teachers and a lot of groups are doing now. They are kind of saying, look at this. They're
yeah,
putting pictures up and saying this is not right, and a lot of us are saying this is not right. We are not attacking the school or anything. We are telling them this is not right, so then hopefully they'll respond. So I think it needs to start with that,
yeah.
with advertising the school, advertising and recruitment, that needs to change, and then it will cascade down, I think, hopefully, to students as well.
Yeah,
I
they'll
don't
be more
know.
accepting of a wider range of teachers. Um,
Yeah.
so finally, what advice would you give to other teachers going through similar experiences, who might feel a bit uncomfortable in lessons, or they don't feel they've got the proper support from their management?
I think really some teachers have the self-fulfilling prophecy, because right now where I'm working, one of the teachers just a few days ago told me, oh, because she considers herself to be a non-native speaker. So she said, oh, it'll be, I think for next term, it'll be good if my students go to an Irish teacher. They need to listen to an Irish accent. I said, why? I said, why? Why do they need to listen to an Irish accent? They are living in Ireland and they're listening to various Irish accents while they're out and about, They've come to you to learn English. If they want to learn an accent, then they can go to an accent coach, So the first thing is, I think teachers themselves need to really be sure of themselves and say, it's okay, my accent is okay. Accents are good things, and that's part of diversity, and diversity is a good thing, so, and that's what they need to think. My accent is fine, and focus on your teaching methods and things like that, and don't worry about your accent. I know it's a tough call, but I think that's what they need to do. And I think also teachers, if they do realize that particular schools are treating them differently or not giving them equal chances or not employing them because they're viewed as non-native speakers, then I think they need to highlight it. And then, and you've got so many social media platforms, you need to put it out there and say, look, this is what happened to me. They need to share that as well, And I think I had that chance to do that during lockdown, because Irish Times was asking about stories about people living and work, people of color living and working in Ireland after the whole Black Lives Matter exploded. So I sent my story in, and they actually published it in the Irish Times about how that student walked out of my class, So, and I think these kind of things shouldn't just happen when Black Lives Matter or whatever happens, This needs to be there all the time. People need to be talking about it and discussing it and taking action all the time. Someone does not need to die in America, for us in Ireland to realize what's happening, I think it needs to go on. Yeah.
Do you feel there has been a slight shift this year? And do you think that shift will continue?
Oh, yes. I don't know if the shift will continue. I think a lot of issues, not just about native speakerism, but a lot of issues, different types of discrimination and everything in Ireland has come out because of Black Lives Matter. But I am a bit worried that sometimes, everyone jumps on that wagon and then, it all kind of dies down again. So I think the idea is to keep it going. You have to keep it going, Yeah. Because the issues and problems are not going to go away. They just get forgotten. But people like me, and people like me or other teachers like me will still continue to face the same sort of issues or same sort of daily things that they may face with students.
Well, fingers crossed that this is the start of a change for the better. I've learned a lot talking to you, Radhika. I have to say, well, first of all, I naively made the assumption that management will always have your back with something like this. And also, the onus is on the management to make these changes as well and listen to the teachers. So, thank you. Thank you for sharing your experiences. And I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So if you enjoyed this episode, guys, please like, share and follow Everything EFL on Instagram, Facebook or Twitter. Also, I'd love to hear from you if you have any comments on this episode. So please get in contact on those social media sites I just mentioned. You can subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts or Apple. And don't forget to tell your colleagues about us and share the love. Bye, guys. Bye, Radhika.
Bye.